Hello, everyone. This is Azeeza Jalaludeen, co-founder for Shine, Self-Help International Network Enterprise, Shine ADA we call ourselves. And I am so excited to be on this call again with you this one more week of fun and some learning, lots of learning, and lots of questions answered, as well as with our dear sister, my dear soul sister, Alejendrah from New Zealand, Peru. Where does New Zealand, Peru come from?
I am a world citizen. Hello, everyone, and thank you. We're really excited for today because our theme today is how we limit ourselves, and we can do that in many different ways, even in ways that we're not aware of. So we're here to answer some questions, and I'm really excited. Hey, today is week 9. We've been doing this for 9 weeks. Woohoo!
Yes, loving women. So this session that we've been having for the last 9th, this is the 9th week. Love women is what this show is about, and yes, it's a show. We have been showcasing lots of learning experiences, lots of fun, and lots of heart in what we call loving women. So we write women as WOMen. So it's not just women as in the female gender, but men as well are included in this loving women platform. So we are standing for humanity. We are standing for loving ourselves, loving people around us, and also loving our humanity. So here today, we're going to be sharing about the topic which, the question that one of our dearest Money and You graduate from India, she put it up. I would love to mention her name, Kirtana. She is an amazing young lady in her 20s. She has put up this question, which is, at the age of 20, she's asking that question. I'm like, oh my God. She had this question. You want to read it out, sister?
Where is it? You read it. You read it.
So the question was that okay, I'll go in and read that. Okay. It's really interesting because when she put it up, she actually put it up as like the last question for last week's session. So we were not in time to answer, but I felt it so apt that we are having that question sent to us because that's what we're looking at. We're looking at how we as individuals are able to impact ourselves. It's okay. I'm retrieving it right now. It's coming up. Okay. The question went something like that, right? Okay, I'm going to say it out in my words, okay? Because when I heard from her and she asked me this question. She asked that, what is it like, how are we going to overcome our own limits based on our experiences? So let's say I have done something in my life and I find myself beating myself up for it. And then I can't bring myself to how effective I was before. So I have kind of become less. So how do I overcome that kind of guilt? Because the last topic was guilt. So she actually brought it up in that sense that, how do I overcome that feeling of guilt that I'm no longer that effective person I am, and I now have a baggage? How do I take myself forward? So I actually indicated today's session as, are we limiting ourselves in our lives? So in our conversation, sister, it's always been about maximizing human potential. So here we are having this conversation, which is very powerful because we're looking at ourselves, let's say 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, or probably a lifetime, right? Ours is about 40 over years, right? Okay, let's not go into that numbers, right?
It's a number. It doesn't matter.
So,
get over it.
Yeah. So right now, I mean, who can guess in their 40s, right? These women are having some discussion, but really, in these numbers that we're looking at, how has it been for you? Because it's brought up some interesting insights for both of us. So you want to share?
Yes. My answer to you is, okay, so I read it here. So I want you to ask yourself, first of all, how much do you consider the value of yourself and how valuable you are based on your results? Because your question is, okay, so I am not as an effective person as I was. So what I will say to you, if you're feeling guilty because you were not as effective as before, and how you can overcome that limit, I invite you actually to detach from that experience, to detach and just observe. Remember, we are practicing being our best subject of study, right? So remember that feeling guilty has to do with you feeling that you have done something wrong towards other people, that you have hurt somebody else, or you have even hurt yourself, or you have done something, you know, very bad. So then do your reality check. Is that really, really real, right? So then you will come to the understanding once you go through the process of processing guilt, and that's on the previous hangout. So I invite you to watch that video because I don't want to repeat the whole thing again. So watch the previous video and then you come back to this one. So guilt is about releasing the anger that you're holding towards yourself. Anger itself is when you're feeling angry towards somebody else, but guilt is when it's inflicted on you, when it comes to yourself, right? So the way that you limit yourself is by holding that anger against you, and that really does limit you. Because remember, when you are feeling guilty, and there is this notion, when we feel guilty, somebody must be punished. That's how we have been trained to operate. So if there's not somebody else punishing you, then that punishment will come from yourself, right? So then the question for you is, do you want to punish yourself? And probably consciously you don't want to do it. Subconsciously you might end up doing it. And if you want deeper tools to work with that, please contact me. The email is on the bottom of this video, and then I can give you, more detailed information about that, because to talk about that on the Hangout is actually quite extensive. So I'm not going to do that. But there are ways where you can actually resolve that anger that you have towards yourself for a while. Now, also another thing that I want to remind you is that our ego makes us think that we are as valuable, or our value actually is based on our results. So ego works this way, okay? It will make you think that you are separate from divine source, that you are separate from other people, that your value is based on what you do and what you have achieved. That's ego. Right? So then if you are feeling that you are feeling guilty because you are not as effective as you were before, then I invite you to check that, because that's your ego speaking. Your true self will never make you feel that way. So, and also this is an opportunity for you to see what's new, right? So if you were not as effective as before, perhaps there is an opportunity for you to move on from what you were doing. Because a lot of times we limit ourselves by getting stuck in a situation. We know that there's something that it doesn't work anymore. And because of fear, because of attachment, because of not knowing what to do, we choose to stay in that comfortable, already known environment. Because to move on, to move forward, it takes courage, right? But let me put it this way. So think about this. What will happen if you continue keeping yourself in the same situation that you know already doesn't work? Because you already know the results from that, right? And this, it's the same for, any form of situation, whether if it's, work environment, business environment, relationships, especially love relationships. There are a lot of people that keep themselves in an unhealthy relationship, even after they have broken up several times, keep going back to the same person when it doesn't work. So you got to ask yourself, what in you makes you stay, you know? And it does take courage, you know, it does take courage to acknowledge it and to ask for support, ask for help, you know, just find somebody who can help you and move on. Your life is very precious. Don't waste your time, because if you keep yourself stuck in that kind of situation, feeling guilty or feeling fearful or just, you know, not having the clarity, you got to think about the consequences in your life and the consequences of the people around you that really care for you. And more so if you are up to playing a bigger game in life and you have the possibility to impact other people through your work, and by not doing it, all these people that are, you know, literally waiting for you for your gift, can you make them wait any longer? That's food for thought from me to you. That will be my answer to that. So back to you, Azeeza.
Yeah, so we were actually having a conversation, interestingly, this conversation about us 5 years ago or 10 years ago or 20 years ago, right? So, and today I had a CEO breakfast meet, and we were speaking about, I was throwing this question as chairing the meet on the weekly session. We have these sessions with CEOs. We were asking each other and to share about themselves, how they have grown in the last 5 to 10 years ago. 10 years ago, who was I? How was I? And how have I shifted, or how have I grown since then? So that gave me a time to reflect. And I was also observing how my friends, you know, who I've known for many years, and they were very beautiful in sharing some interesting insights about them and how their, you know, their memories and experiences has impacted them to be who they are and what they are doing right now. So if you ask me, I would love to hear from you, Alejendrah, shortly. I would like to share on my side, right? 10 years ago, other than the fact that I'm an avid networker, business person, you know, business networking was like really my forte, connecting people, and the fact that I was really promoting money to Indians in Singapore. Other than this two, which I'm still doing, doesn't look like anything different. It's just that I've got more structure in my life. I definitely have more strength, you know, going through what I've gone through, the resilience, that persistency to stay, as well as the courage to stick on. So if you were to ask me, have I done mistakes? I've done lots of mistakes, big time, right? So the more tall is the strength that we have to get up and get going. So if you were to ask, you know, there's always people say start from zero. I recognize that we never start from zero.
Yeah.
The fact that we have a wealth of experience is never at zero. It's always that scale, you know, that graph that goes up. So it goes up like that. It's an illusion if you think that it's going to fall back to zero. It's never going to be that way.
Right.
So to recognize that growth is like there, and probably you'll go good, and then you got okay, and then good, you know, it's like uphill scale, because like what you mentioned, sister, the ego is telling us based on our results in our life, the whatever, you know, materials or whatever that we're looking at as results. The truth is, as a human being, how much we have evolved. When we are true to ourselves, true to our, you know, to speak to people who are connected with you in heart, they will tell you how much you have evolved. So like, you know, both of us, sister, we've been together for 5 years.
Longer,
right?
maybe.
Yeah, but you know, 5 years. Let's say we started 5 years when you started Money and You, right? So
if you
can you imagine how we've grown as sisters?
Yeah.
You have seen me grow, and I've seen you grow. We've gone through shit in this short time of a period. And in many assets, you know, and we've seen strength to strength, the way that we have been, you know, empowering. So it's sometimes, you know, difficult for us to gauge ourselves or even look at ourselves as limited. At the same note, I also want to point out one thing before I hand over this conversation to you, is that there were parts of me, right? Before my dad passed on. I want to bring that point up because that was like my turning point in my life, when until then, And in the eyes of my dad, I was this, high C person who is so perfect in the way that I do stuff. So I'm like, I get everything done on time. I'm so disciplined and all of that. And I have to admit that part of me kind of went haywire, and kind of like I didn't have to prove anybody, kind of a thing came up for me after he passed on when I was 10 years old. So every time I'm doing things, and later on when I started, my family and all of that, people could resonate with that. Those who know me as a housewife, they would come into my house, they'll be like blown away. Until now, it's kind of good that everything is like very clean and proper and, very disciplined. At the same time, there's part of me that went lost. Discipline to that, high C in me. So even though I do, part of me still portrays that, I feel like I've lost that part of me 20 years ago. So does that mean it's lost forever? I don't think so. So right now, as I speak to you, I recognize that that part of me is something that I have kind of held back, not allowing myself to grow based on my memories of my dad and all of the story that probably I have behind my mind. So like what you have been mentioning, I'm working on myself to release those thoughts so that I can become more effective in the way that I'm living my life. So the high C part of me is definitely a very important part of my life when it comes to, business, and when it comes to discipline and all of that. So it's very, very important for me to live a more effective life. So this is something that I feel, come up as a truth for many people where instances happen, right? So maybe you want to share with us, sister, in your experience in the last decade, how has it been for you, in terms of up the scale?
All right. Well, the past 10 years have been a truly transformational period. Actually, the transformational period for me started back in 1995 with the earthquake in Japan, the Hanshin earthquake. That was like the first trigger for me to commit to be a really good human being, because I was a workaholic. I was a total bitch. I was so angry. My relationships were really, really, really bad with my parents, starting with them. But that was the trigger point to start the changing. And as you mentioned, this is actually the process of transformation is not something that, for most of us, it doesn't happen overnight. It's an accumulation of changes that we have put in place, that we have worked for, over the years. And the last 10 years have been really very impactful. And for that, actually, I'm very grateful that I was living in Singapore during that time. When the student is ready, the teacher appears. So in Singapore, I had many teachers. So in 2005, I got myself into a rebound marriage. My previous marriage didn't work out. My ex-husband turned out to be gay, which is, that was his path. We were not meant to be together, but nevertheless, the shock of that, and then I got depressed. I got anxiety issues, and that experience actually pointed me to the direction to start looking into myself. And at the same time, because I didn't have guidance and I didn't know how to deal with that, I felt so lost. And the only way out that I could see was actually to get into another relationship. And this is a big mistake that many women and men make when they don't know how to deal with a relationship, the current one, and then, the idea is actually you get somebody else and then you forget about the other one. It doesn't work. So learn from that the hard way. And it was actually a very powerful experience of self-discovery, because of that, I went through a process of reclaiming my personal power. I was totally, totally, totally lost. And then that actually also brought me to the space of learning how to love myself and how to accept myself 100%. And when I say 100%, and we discussed this on the previous hangout, and I share with you guys how I'm not waxing, I'm not shaming myself, you know, my hairs are just growing, you know, and I'm just going natural. And I'm loving it, you know, I'm totally loving it. And there's some gray hairs that are coming out of my head, and I'm just loving it. I'm not willing to change myself, you know, from who I really am in order to, you know, to fit certain parameters and for people to accept me. I mean, if people don't accept me the way they are, just you know, keep on moving on, you know. I'm not going to be bothered with those people. You say, bye, sayonara, you know. And then also another big shift that came through those 10 years was to learn how to love my parents and accept them exactly the way they are. And that has been such a beautiful blessing, because my mother passed away in 2013. And, you know, with all my heart and all the gratitude that I have for this amazing woman that gave birth to myself, my siblings, is that we became soul sisters, you know, not just mom and daughter, you know. It's just our relationship got so deep and so juicy and so beautiful. You know, we became confident, you know, like we can talk about anything, you know. I was talking to her about sex and, you know, my experiences, and she was sharing hers, and it's like, this is so cool, you know. And of course, you know, receiving some guidance and advice from her, just so beautiful. And with my dad also, same thing, you know. With my dad, for a long time, we had this love-hate relationship. I love you so much, and I want you to stay there, you know, kind of thing. But now it's, yeah, I completely stopped judging him. You know, we have some really tough times as you know, as I was growing up in Peru. And for a long time, my dad wasn't able to take care of his family. So I had a lot of resentment, anger, and judgment towards him. But then all of that is, you know, a thing of the past. And I can say that I have this inner peace because I have been able to bring our relationships, transform our relationships. And also same thing with the relationship with my children, my 2 teen children, and with their dad and his partner. We are this amazing modern family, you know. It's just beautiful, and I just love it, you know. Another thing that has transformed in me, it's actually to really understand that when I'm loving somebody, I'm loving that man for the joy of loving, rather than having these expectations. Okay, I'm loving you, therefore you have to, you know, blah 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 blah. You know how we usually operate, you know, when we're not that aware. And what that has allowed me is to experience myself in a relationship in a way that it's very liberating. And even if, you know, say, don't have the certainty of, you know, what's going to happen next, it's just to be satisfied at this point in time. Okay, saying to him, look, you know, I had the most amazing time with you. You know, if you're ready for this, come and look for me. You know, rather than being anxious about, okay, well, are you going to call me? When are we going to meet again? And, you know, but it's just rather, you know, allowing and trusting, okay, if this really meant to be, it's just going to work out no matter what. Because, you know, when, and now I get this. You know, and recently I had this beautiful experience of reconnecting with someone who's very special. And we share a lot in common. It's just amazing, right? And what I'm not doing is what I used to do 10 years ago. Like, oh, this is the one, you know, come here. You know? None of that. But rather just trusting and allowing, yeah, being the space and being that woman that is able to, you know, to create the space for these amazing men just to to come here, and be in that space rather than suffocating the poor thing, and then scaring him away. So yeah, in the last 10 years, it's been a huge shift, and also during that 10-year period, then is when I had, the darkest night of my soul. There is when I had a death experience. Then is also when I had, I was asked to go through a spiritual assignment for 3 years, getting, releasing everything that I had. It was just crazy, But at the same time, through those experiences, really being able to see how I was limiting myself, because the theme of today's call is, how we limit ourselves, and also how we can get ourselves out of that limitation. Because after all, the limitation that we see in our environment is all created in our minds. It's you are the one who has all these thoughts. And remember, your thoughts, they just don't come randomly to you. Your thoughts are generated based on the database of information that you have received while you were growing up, particularly between the period when you were in your mother's womb up to 7 years old. This is the most critical time in your life when you are being programmed and you're being designed to think and operate in a certain way. So when you want to change, when you want to transform your circumstances, your reality, your current reality, is not just about making changes on how you do things. You gotta transform, you gotta change your chip, your mental chip, whatever it's, the programmings, as well as they are supported programmings. They are not. Yes, it's the quality of your programming, that determine your reality. And there are ways that you can actually change all of that. Yes, that's what I will share about these last 10 years and how amazing it has been.
You brought up a very interesting point, and I feel that this is something very common among many people, especially women. This thing that I was told, I and my mom have a very loving relationship now. It was never so 10 years ago. I grew up in a different, I think we've spoken about this quite a bit. But what's interesting about what she said, before, her biggest complaint that is, I'm a very impatient person. Everything right now, it must happen for me right now. That's how I have been been doing it.
Yeah.
So since the 10 years, right now, my mom, you know what she says? What? How can you be so patient? I mean, how come you're so patient?
Yeah.
So the point is where we are heading with our life, when it comes to limiting ourselves, I recognize that it's a lot to do with us just stepping back and taking a deep breath in.
Yeah.
And really assessing the situation based on a third-party perspective.
Yeah.
And we get to see a clearer picture of who we are and where we are right now. Yeah. And that, whatever stories that has been said, to me, it's been like, all the stories said, how do I want to take myself forward? So for that to happen effectively, it's about living in the present and living in the now, and really enjoying this moment as we have it. Doing the best that we can, this moment, this second, this minute, this hour, this day. So to do that to the maximum will really maximize our human potential. And I have to admit that I have become an ardent fan and an avid follower, and I'm like gonna be really living, being part of that work is on Ho'oponopono, and I'm like so loving it. The principle on taking responsibility for all the things that's coming up in me, being reflected in people or in situations. So I have been very successful with all grace, divine grace, in really assessing myself and really taking it on. And I highly recommend you all to go into the website and take a look at Ho'oponopono. Lots of information, and we love to give you more guidance on how it can be applied in your life. I think that's going to be something that I'm going to get on very seriously over the next months to come as well. So with this technique, it's supporting me a lot in terms of being clear and taking responsibilities for what I do. And so it frees me up. It frees me up to think about me right now and how I can perform as a better human being. And that boils down to unconditional love. And I think people have been watching our Facebook pages, and I've been going unconditional love everywhere. If you go to my Facebook page, you'll see that too. So it's about unconditional love, and first of all, to myself. So I actually don't care if they don't love me, and I don't care actually when people come and tell me you are blah, 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 blah. I'm like, okay, thank you for sharing. I just love myself so much. And I love you too. So that's been my life. Are we able to go to that space? And I feel that when we are in that space, like what you mentioned, sister, I can recognize that bliss, that bliss, that satisfaction, that joy, and that purpose in this moment. Nothing else. Not about tomorrow. No, I had a conversation with my husband about death and all of that. So about living at this moment, and I'm okay if I'm going to go to the next second, because the moment the breath goes in or out, we don't know whether we're going to take the next, right?
That's right. The moment is now. That's the only moment that we have. And this is another thing that our ego actually makes us think that, there is, all this, future, when, there could be, but ultimately, you really got to make sure that you are really fully present in the now.
Yeah.
That's the only time, that's the only real time, that's the only moment that there is, And like you say, we never know when it's going to be our last breath. Life is no guarantee. And I'm telling you, in 2009, when I had that death experience, I had no idea that my life was going to be taken. Absolutely no idea, And then I decided to come back. And through that experience, I really got to understand in my blood and bones what free will is. But then also the other thing that I want you to become aware of is that suffering is optional. And I want you to really reflect on that. How much suffering are you allowing in your life right now because of the self-imposed limitations that you have allowed in yourself as well? Because all of those things are it's optional. We choose moment by moment. And every single moment in your life could be a moment of total liberation, depending on what you choose. So right now, I want you to take a nice deep breath and then bring to your mind a situation that is really not helpful, is not healthy in your life. What is it? Is it a business dealing that it's giving you headaches? Is it the relationship with your child? Is it the relationship with your partner, boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife? What's that thing in your life right this moment that is making you feel stressed, making you feel small, guilty, angry, sad, etc.? Okay, just hold that for a moment, and please close your eyes. And I just want you just to imagine, okay, that for whatever funny reason, you just decided to stay in that same space. You didn't have the courage to move on. And now it's 5 years from now, so it's 2020, and you are with the same situation or with the same person, with the same feelings, but the difference is that it's 5 more years. And I want you to become aware of what you feel in your body right now. Feel that sensation in your body. Do you want that in your life?
I mean, like vomiting.
Yeah, and I can feel, you know. So if you don't want that, remember, even if you went in your mind into the future, 5 years from now, you can make a decision right there and then. And you can choose, do you want your liberation? Do you want your freedom? Do you want good things in your life? Or you want to carry on with this kind of lifestyle? It's your choice. So if you want that change, just say, okay, I choose my freedom. Or I choose to love. I choose to be free. I choose to be loving and kind to myself first. And with that choice, I want you just to come back to the moment right now, right here, right now, in the present moment with that new choice. And commit to that choice. Because no one can make you choose otherwise, and no one can make any changes on your behalf. It's your life. And suffering is optional. It is so optional. Don't buy into the idea that it has to be that way. That's your ego telling you stories. Don't listen to that. Listen to your true self. Yeah. So yeah, that's something that I wanted to share. And
I mean, this is one conversation that was going on online for me with a group of men on LinkedIn. We were having a conversation on this topic on why are Indian women subdued.
oh,
Interesting. And you
yeah,
know who was having the conversation? Men.
yeah, that's right. But you know what, Azeeza? I wouldn't say that it's only India. In Japan, that is very common. I lived in Japan so long. Women in Japan, they subdue as well. So I wouldn't say it's just India. I see also that in Latin America. So it's not an Indian thing. It happens a lot around the world. Probably in some countries more than others. I don't see that happening really in Europe. In especially in Western Europe, women tend to be a bit more, you know, self-secured and more. I wouldn't say the word that comes is forceful. It's not that, but
More open.
more open. But at the same time, to the risk of actually being just too much, and it goes to the other extreme, where actually women are actually in bed instead of subduing, they go to the other extreme of being, you know, okay, I'm totally independent and I don't need a man in my life, and you know, that's the other extreme. Gotta be, you know, middle point, center, balance. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this conversation that I was having, what I told them, exactly what you said, having traveled and having friends around the world, we have recognized, you know, the Chinese friends, you know, how many I know have gone through that as well. So it's not a India thing. Like what you said, yes, some countries more, some countries less, but it is a women thing. And like what I said, interestingly, the conversation was men having that conversation and all of that. So when I stepped in and I told them that, you know, really it's a self-inflicted, everything that you said, sister, it's a self-inflicted symptom that we created in our mind based on whatever stories that we have in our childhood days, in our environment, in the way that we have grown up. And there's no right and wrong to it. It's just how it has been. Yeah. And right now, the choice is how we're going to move forward, how we're going to support these platforms we have created. This channel is meant to support women to love themselves more so that we can be more self-expressive. Not that we want to go into some feminist movement or go into some campaigning and protest and all of that. No, I'm not. I'm out of that. You know?
Thank you for the segue. Thank you, because what you just said is exactly what I have been able to experience. You know, men being men enough, mature and open and loving and caring to support the women. Now, let me share this with you. In Japan, I just developed this passion for Aikido. which is a form of martial arts. Okay, and I just love it, and it actually saved my life once. I was grateful to have known that. Otherwise, probably I could have ended up raped in the train if I didn't know Aikido. So, and then for me to be so passionate about this practice, and then I left it behind. I just put it on the side, right? And then I was asking myself, so how come I put it away? You know, something that I so much love. And then I was just, you know, going deeper and deeper and deeper. And the answer that I found was actually I stopped practicing because my body changed a lot. You know, I became very skinny, and what disappeared were my breasts. You know, and then I didn't like that. And I'm like, well, I want my breasts to be here, you know. But the motivation for that was that in my mind, I had the idea that if, as a woman, if I didn't have, you know, voluptuous breasts, and it's not that I have voluptuous breasts, but I still have some, you know, that, you know, men will not be interested in me. You know, and this is something that, you know, we women, we have learned things about ourselves that are so erroneous. And it took an amazing man, someone who really, really, really sees me, and someone who really accepts me 100% the way I am, to tell me, look, babe, if that happens, I don't care, because I just, you know, I just love your body the way it is. And if it changes, it doesn't matter. Still, you will have your nipples. But that's the thing, you know, and men, the majority of men, you know, unfortunately, you know, have been brought up and have this influence from the media and movies and pornography that women have to look in a certain way for them to be attractive. And that is such a pity. And it's so sad, because women are so delicious. They're so, I mean, we are so beautiful. And we are more just than our physicality, you know. So then you men that are watching this, okay, if you are courageous and then you are able to step up and really allow yourself to see your woman with different eyes, you see a beautiful woman in her, you see a goddess in her, all that external, you know, the shell, it will not matter, you know. So then going back to men being able to support women, this is actually a dance that we dance with each other, you know. So the same way that we women can support our men to be the greater selves, you know, the powerful, you know, amazing, gorgeous men that they are, you know, it takes for a woman, you know, to just to love them unconditionally and nourish them and uplift them. They respond positively. And the same way, you know, men, you know, can respond positively to the women. So I see that it is actually one of the key elements in the recipe for a successful relationship, that both are able to see each other for who they really are and not to focus on the shell, because ultimately, I mean, the shell will change. It will shift. It will not be the same for over and over and over and over years, you know? Yeah.
I think that's also what I mentioned in that conversation, because I felt they were so beautiful men. They were very knowledgeable, very, very affluent men who were in that conversation on this topic. And I told them that what they bringing it up itself was a healing, that they are taking responsibility in terms of even mentioning it and, you know, speaking about it on what's happening is already, you know, a space for healing for women in India, to be even, you know, to speaking about them, to be caring about them, to even, you know, consider that as a help by, you know, limiting women or limiting, what do you call, when you limit a woman, you are actually limiting their generations to come. So here we are, beautiful men having conversations, and right now we have become the result of their conversation. And you know, we are sending lots of love, not only to women in India, but also women around the world, to be more. Because right now, as we speak about it, we take responsibility for where we are right now. And ho'oponopono, you know, the thoughts that's coming up, you know, we want to just say, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, and thank you. So for that thought that has come up, and we want to release it and really send lots of love for all the beautiful people that is watching this program right now and watching it later, that we're going to have a beautiful space together.
Yes.
You want to say, I feel like saying a short prayer. You're good at it. You are an Inca priest, so say a prayer, baby.
Thank you. This is really beautiful. So, beloved Mother Earth, beloved Creator, and we thank you and we thank ourselves for this moment of co-creation and co-creation in harmony with ourselves by accepting, by truly seeing ourselves. We allow others to see ourselves for who we are, and we allow ourselves to see others the way they are, without any preconditioning, without any judgment or expectations, and just see the divinity in each other. So we thank you who is watching these videos for taking it on board, taking your life on board, because when you generate your freedom, you are allowing others to be free as well. And that is actually why Azeeza and myself, we have committed to those hangouts, and may these hangouts be blessed for years and years and years to come, and many be able to be touched through the work that we are doing. So we thank you all. We bless you all, and shine on. You're a crazy diamond. Shine on, baby. Woo!
So it is, and so it is, and so it is.
Yes.
So I think this is a good time that we can round off the call, unless you have something else to share.
Yeah, just one last thing, just very, very quickly. I invite you to examine the assumptions that you have about yourself, about other people, about your life, about how the world is supposed to work. And if there is a particular challenge that you are facing right this moment, what are the assumptions that you have about that particular challenge? And not just that, take a step further and then ask yourself how your limitations, the self-imposed limitations, have been a contributor to that situation, and how you can actually move on from that. Because remember, the answers are inside of you. You just got to go into the space of silence within yourself so that you can be an observant. The observer, and then in that space you can get the insights. And if you want more guidance, feel free to contact Azeeza and myself. We're happy to guide you. And yes, your limitations are just created by yourself. So you have the key. You always have the key in your hands. Don't let your mind tell you that you don't. Okay? You do. Be free.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much, darling. And once again, thank you so much for being on the call. We just love hearing from you. Please continue sending us your emails and your questions, and how we can love women, we men together, and make it a huge success for humanity. Lots of love, and signing off, Azeeza and
Alejendrah. Say hi, everyone.
Good night. Good day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.